Hi everyone, today I thought I would do a watercolour painting of some people in a cafe. So I'm starting out with some Winsor and Newton watercolour paper, and I've got this palette here, which as you can see has been previously used and has got the remnants of quite a lot of watercolour. So I'm just going to pick up some of this cadmium yellow. I think I must have used this at the beach or something at some point, I'm not sure. It looks to be a little bit of sand in there, but I haven't used this palette for ages, so I thought it would be a good thing to make use of the leftovers, as it were. And I'm going to begin by just putting down a fairly, or very abstract treatment of this scene. So put in a swathe of yellow across the top there, because we've got that patisserie hot food sign, which I may include in some way. And then if I just squint at the painting, there are some other light. I'm not going to copy the scene exactly, but I'm going to do my own thing. But we've got kind of some kind of railing going across here, and we've also, let's get a bit more water into the mixture, and then we've also got another bright bit there where there's another railing. Got a bit of a fibre there in the paint, so we'll get rid of that. There's a few bits there. And let's put a bit more of that yellow in there. And that'll do for the moment. Next up, I've washed the brush out. Let's dive in and add some water to what looks to be a blob of alizarin crimson. Let's bang in a swathe of, or a strip of that across there. And we'll let the watercolour do its own thing. And then put some more going down that way. And so really what I'm doing is, because the alizarin's kind of darkish certainly compared to the yellow, I'm just looking at the painting as a series of blocks of tone, and for the most part where I'm seeing light I'm putting the yellow, and where I'm seeing dark I'm putting, or the darkest stuff I'm putting the alizarin crimson. So with that in mind, we can start working on some of these figures. So we've got a guy's head around about there, got another head around about there, another one there, there's a couple back here, and you can see I'm really not drawing people at all. And there's also a chap over here, isn't there? Because as I say, I'm going to make up my own scenario. So we'll rinse the brush out again, and then I'm just looking to see if I've got any blue on this palette. I don't have a huge amount, but I think there is some in here, although there appears to be some neutral tint in there as well. If I can just, whoops, if I can just work that a little bit. Well, the blue doesn't seem to be freeing up very much, but the neutral tint has. So okay, so that's what's happened, so we'll go with that. So while we're still got some wet in wet, you can see I'm getting all these chunky bits because this is an old dried up palette, but let's add a bit more drama to the scene then. Let's bring in a V here. I'll clear off some of those lumpy bits in a minute, and we'll put another V going that way, and then we'll put a dark square or two in there, come down a bit more here. There's some semblance of furniture there, put a tabletop in here, got the angle wrong so I'll change that, put a bit of darkness in there, few dry brush marks. And that's probably enough for the moment to give us an environment. But as I said, I want to get rid of some of these chunky lumps of dried paint and fibres and things. So just taking a brush without any paint on it, I'm going to sweep away some of that stuff. Right, well, our first wash is not completely dry, but it's on the way. So what I've done is grabbed a dollop of ceruleum blue and switched to a round mop brush. This is all my brushes are synthetic. So let's have a go at making some rather different marks with a different colour. Now, I've got a chap over here on the left in a chair, so we'll just put in, without going into any detail, just kind of a lump of blue there, which could be his torso. And again, the paint's running. Got the paper, as you probably gathered by now, up vertical. And if the paint runs, then that's okay. Now, I previously put a red blob there, and that could be a head, or the beginnings of a head. So let's put the bit of a blue back there, because we've got a chap in a t-shirt. And then let's take some of that yellow and create a green, because we don't have any green in the painting at the moment. And let's put in the beginnings of a torso of a person there. And another lump of green there. And then I'm just looking around to see if I can use green anywhere else in the painting. Why not? Let's put a few marks up here and up there. And I'm going to go back to my red now. Put some there, go back in to that blue with the unwashed brush. So I've got kind of a dirty green now. And we'll sort of begin to hint at a light or something coming down there. And there are some others actually, aren't there, now that I look? So I don't have to describe these things exactly. And I can even make things up as I go, which is, part of the fun. So at the moment I quite like the way things are looking with the mix of colours and this bright white in the centre. Now, I originally planned to do a full-on watercolour painting, but I just remembered that I bought this little set of gouache a few months ago now when I was down at Sidmouth, and I don't think I've used gouache or however you pronounce it. It must have been 35 years ago since I've last used this, but why not add some of this onto here, and we'll see what kind of effects we can get. So let me put some stuff on my palette and then I'll be back with you. So I've got permanent white, spectrum yellow, flame red, ultramarine blue and burnt umber. There's also a velvet black in the kit, but I haven't used any of that just yet. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some of the blue and a little bit of the white, a bit more of the blue, and there's a person whose torso I can see off in the distance here. Can't see their head. Switch to a small flat synthetic, but they're wearing an apron. Just putting a little bit of an apron shape in there, and we'll just add a little touch there as well. So I'll come back to that in a moment, but now let's grab a bit more white and I'll keep this blue theme going. And I want to kind of keep some of the watercolour work that I've done showing through. Let's go a little bit darker now. Put a darker patch there, and then go almost pure ultramarine blue, although some of the white is still being quite powerful. And then while I've got that on the brush, I'll pop a bit of the flame red in. Gives us quite a nice deep colour. A little bit of the white into that same colour. Then back into the lighter blue, a bit of the yellow, a bit more. Put some shadow in there. And then a bit more white into that same mixture. More white again. So I'm basically picking out little shapes within the figures that I'm seeing. And then later on in proceedings we'll add some more defining shapes and lines to bring things a bit more to life. So I'm just going to keep going with this colour I've got at the moment. Just pick out sort of interesting shadow shapes, a little bit of dry brush going on there. But I can put a little block of colour there, for example. And then this chair is sort of, you know, in the reference I can't see the bottom of the chair, so let's make that sort of obscured in some way. We don't need to define too carefully in how it's obscured, but just sort of helps to add a sense of illusion to the piece, I think. So now let's add some flesh tones to our situation. So I'll take some of the yellow, some of the little touch of the red, grab way too much there, as I often tend to do, I seem to remember. Whoa, that's quite powerful, that flame red. Let's have a bit of the white, just a touch of the blue, and we'll give that a whirl. So let's put a few beginnings of some heads in. So again, just going with simple marks still, even at this stage. Now this kind of watercolour mess I've got here, that's working almost, that's almost there as a head. I need to correct this one, put some hair in. got the beginnings of a back here, so I don't think I want to do anything there. We could perhaps put a little touch in there, but it's the chap on the left in particular I wanted to get to. So, you know, again, obviously I'm not painting this chap's portrait. It's just to begin to indicate that we've got a person there. And then let's see if we put a bit more white into our mixture, I can begin to put a little bit of flesh colour there and there. And then we'll give this person the beginnings of a face as well. And then just to balance things up a little bit, we could perhaps fill in a little bit of yellow. Then this guy's legs, this guy's wearing shorts at the front, so we'll put a bit there. Perhaps this lady's arm could do with a touch. Another bit there perhaps. Put some dry brush in. And just begin to put the word hot in there. And, you know, obviously it's clear what that says, but, you know, it's not too sharply defined. It's just kind of off there in the background, as it were. Now, my plan in a moment is to, once everything's fully dry, is to come in with some watercolour marker, but I've still got quite a lot of paint left on my palette, and I haven't used the burnt umber at all. So let's grab some of that and just work our way round the paper, putting in a few shadow marks here and there to just begin to add a little, you know, more sense of drama. I don't think that sentence I just said really made sense, but hopefully you picked up the essence of it. So a few patches of shadow there. I'll come back to this chap with the watercolour marker. This lady, though, I could begin to indicate some hair, you know, the back of her head. I'm not overly happy with the way that just worked out, but it's not too bad. This guy here doesn't have much hair in the photo, but we'll suggest some there. A few abstract shapes here and there. And then this is, gouache, not acrylic. So I'm interested to see how that will respond to a bit of a damp paper towel. So, as expected, you can still move it around. See what kind of effects we can get. Soften these a little bit, perhaps. Blend them a touch. Yeah, okay, so now let's come in with... Oh, I just need to clean my brush, so back in a tick. Okay, so just coming in with the same brush, but a bit of pure white. And just, really adding a few bursts of light here and there. And again, for the most part, I'm just kind of letting the paint do the work, really, because I haven't really defined anything too clearly at the moment. But as I say, when we come back in a bit, once the paint's dry, that'll change a little bit. Alright, so again, the paint's not fully dry, but I've got a burnt umber watercolour marker. So what I want to do now is kind of enhance the bits which aren't working all that well and leave other bits untouched. So for example, the back of this woman, I think that's working quite nicely. But what I can do is just put in a hint of the back of a chair. I'm regretting those last couple of lines, but not too bad. So she sat somewhere now, and then the guy next to her is also sat on a chair. So we'll try and do as little as possible. Now, as mentioned, I quite like this bit. It's almost forming a face with very little drawing, but if I put in the back of an ear there, and then perhaps a bit of shadow there, a bit more there, then a bit of a line, then I've almost created a face there, or a head. And if I want to soften the edges of these patches of pen I'm putting down, then I can obviously do that, because this, as I say, this is just a watercolour marker. Now, gentleman on the right, we've got some bits that are working for us reasonably well. And again, I'm not doing portraits here. I'm just trying to do kind of a sketch effect, really, where some bits are described rather well and other bits are just sort of left open for interpretation. Now, you see this little cauliflower I've got here? I can turn that. Perhaps he's got some kind of glass or coffee mug, and that's the foam on top. Not the best mug I've ever drawn. I've made that a bit too flat, perhaps, but I still quite like the idea of doing that. Now, if I come over to this lady, that's helped to define her a little bit. So we'll keep going. That vein, and again, perhaps she's in a slightly different chair. but it's just to sort of suggest that there's something there. Now there's not really a head here facing her, so I'm going to give, I think the person in the photo does have a pair of specs. So all of a sudden we've got two people talking to each other. Chap on the left here, could do with an ear. Pop a bit of furniture in there as well. And then some of these lights can perhaps, you know, barely need hinting at really. And I actually quite like this figure as it is, but just give them a bit of hair. Tempted to put a bit of white on for a shirt that they're wearing, but I think that figure works quite nicely, so I'm just going to leave that one. And then in the foreground here, what can I do? Now I kind of smudged this area here, so I could use the edge that's created to create some kind of bowl. And you know, I'm sort of really abstracting things now because these two lines weren't meant to be a table as such, but they can kind of hint at that. And then perhaps this is a reflection of something that's on the table. We can bulk out the chair that this chap's sitting in a bit as well. So now, having added those pen lines, I can keep the ones that I like, and I can use paint to change the ones which I feel need some slight addition. So just switch to a small round brush and using the pure blue just to vary the colour of the line of this one's glasses, and then going back into some of the blue that I mixed earlier, I can give her a few stripes on a shirt. So without painting an arm, I've now suggested her arm is bent and resting on the table. Coming back in with the dark blue, put a bit of a line under that chap's collar. And then this bowl that I've suggested in the foreground, going back to the dark blue, perhaps it's got a little bit of a design on it. And again, I don't want to draw the eye to that too much, but now it's hopefully become the beginnings of a bowl there. Now the mug here with the coffee spilling over, as it were, if I mix some more white into that blue, I can colour some of that in, and that's become a little bit more believable now. Let's grab some more white and mix it in with the blue that I had on the brush. Just removing the majority of the lines on that chap's hair, just so that it's a little bit softer there. Now, definitely want some darkish colour next to this chap. So we'll get a bit of the burnt umber, a little bit of the flame red. So this is a great red, actually. It is really quite powerful. I just want to make that a little more random looking than the obvious block that I put next to him. And for similar reasons, I'll just extend the marks there, so that it's not quite so obvious how I've kind of created a chin by putting a block of dark tone there. Now, I was tempted to do something with this lady's hair, but I quite like it the way it is at the moment. So let's add a bit of red. We don't have too much red here actually, do we? So let's grab a bit of the pure flame red. And then with a bit of yellow, let's grab some more of that and mix it into some of the white I've still got left. Let's put a few highlights on the head there, just to soften that a little bit, and then go back to the burnt umber. I'm not totally happy with the blue hair I've given this chap, or not in its entirety anyway, so I think I prefer that a little bit more. Or perhaps, yeah, I know what we need to do actually. I think we need a little bit more warmth on that guy on the far right, so just mixed up a sort of yellow ochre brown. So if we do that, there's his forearm perhaps. Continue that colour down to his legs. Grab a bit more of the white, mix that in, so there's a little bit of a highlight. And put some of that on his face. Then going back to the deeper flesh tone that I had before, or something similar, I'm going to put this, just define the structure of his head a little bit better. I mean, obviously it certainly isn't clearly described, but I think that works rather better than it was. So let me just clean my brush out again. So we'll just grab some white, touch of yellow, a bit more perhaps, a little touch of blue, and we'll put some highlights on that guy's shirt so that it's a bit, just solidifies him a little bit, I think, by doing that. But again, without describing things too fully. Now, can I use this green anywhere? I quite like that green. So what I'll do is I'll put a patch there just to kind of break up that brown outline to the head that I put down. And if maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's a plant there or something, it doesn't really matter. But it just takes away from the kind of cut-out shape a little bit that I had. And then, keeping going with that colour, but I've just mixed in a little bit more yellow. Or just break up some of the lines that I used to describe the backs of the chairs, but again without being overly fussy about it. Then wash my brush out a moment. Again, grabbing some white, a little bit of the blue, touch of the red, a bit more blue, a bit more red. Hopefully we've just created a pale purple. Well, kind of, but good enough for what I want. Something isn't quite right about this figure on the left. I can't quite work out what it is, but I don't think it's too bad. Well, the head could do with improving, I guess. Let's try and do that. So, going back to one of the darker browns I had, and that's way too dark, so we'll mix that in with a bit of white. It's a little more like it. Yeah. If I can, I feel like this guy's head is going to keep growing and growing if I keep going along the way I have been. But no. Okay, that did not work out quite as planned. So let's see if we can scrape that off. Where's my water spray? Here we go. Well, funnily enough, I actually like the scraped back version rather better than the what I tried to paint. So we'll take that as a sign, and I think what I'll do is just come in with some of the burnt umber again. Just hint at some hair. I think having that not as clearly defined as I had it before, it was working rather better. I just wanted to break up that blue, the edge of that blue line I've got. It's kind of messing with my eye for some reason. So, whoops. Oh. Yeah, we'll keep that in. So it's a little less clear what's going on, but I feel the illusion personally works better for having added those lines.